My name is Iana Ma'at. I am a trained therapist, a couples and transformational coach, and I help folks get clarity, get unstuck, understand their behaviors, connect the pain points that they're experiencing day to day to the stuff from back in the past, and get out of dwelling and get into action and moving and getting traction in your life. I don't care what it is, your relationships, how you showing up in your work, moving towards purpose, getting rid of fear, releasing some of the things that are just holding you back. Matter of fact, releasing all the things that are holding you back, and really getting into a place where you can be your most authentic self, where you are not attached to what other people say, what other people think, all of those things, and you are fully integrated psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually, and physically on all the levels. Now, I hope y'all don't hear my husband. He's in a session over there, and I don't know if y'all can hear him. I hope y'all don't. So, let me say what I want to talk to you about today. This is really going to be, I'm going to break this down into like 2 or 3 videos because it deserves that level of breakdown. And I really want to take my time with your understanding where I'm going with this. So let's just first really get into, and let me set the tone for what many people don't recognize and don't understand in terms of how they are showing up to their life, how you are showing up to your life. We are showing up oftentimes to our life like healing, growth, movement, evolution, progress is a luxury. It's a luxury. But I want y'all to understand that healing, movement, growth, the development of your soul and your spirit so you can do what you came to do and get everything that God would have for you is not a luxury. It is a requirement. It's a requirement for life. Like, it really is the it of life. It's the point of life. It's like, why am I here? What am I doing here? This is the point. Every single thing that we experience in our relationships, in our families, in the workplace, in community, in society, gives us opportunities to be able to see ourselves. And when I say see ourselves, I'm not just talking about your personality and yourself that people know you as and how you know yourself to be. I'm talking about the big self. I'm talking about your higher self, your God self, being able to get in touch with who you really are. Because the goal of life is really to remember who you are. To remember who you are, because most of us have forgotten who we really are, that we are made in the image and likeness of the Most High, and therefore we got all kind of power accessible to us. We got all kind of insight accessible to us. We got all kind of strengths and everything that we need, but we have forgotten. And this is why, excuse me, this is why we stay stuck. This is why we don't move. This is why we don't do the things we need to do. So let's get into it. Okay, I want to talk to you about this this piece where I have been noticing this for myself. I've noticed this, obviously, that I see this with my clients, but I have really been, real talk, noticing it with myself lately. I'm very aware where we can get a lot of insight, but we are not moving from insight to implementation. I can say that I'm moving. I will say that I am in the space and stage in my life where I'm moving, but I'm moving slow sometimes. And I'm recognizing some of the same stifling habits and patterns. That's what I specialize in, focusing on patterns and things that get in the way. I'm noticing some of those same things coming up for me, and I'm like, wow. Right? Moving from insight to implementation is a thing that a lot of us don't do. And I want you to know that healing and growth isn't just about collecting wisdom. It's not just about having deep spiritual experiences, which are wonderful to have, but it's about putting that wisdom into practice. Practice. If you're watching this, I just need you to type practice, just so I know when I come back and look at the video, like, okay, y'all got it. It's about, that's one of my favorite words, practice. We got to put it into practice in our daily lives. And so there are a lot of folks who are always in the insight phase. And I have to say, like, that was me. Ooh, that was me for a while, in the insight phase, feeling spiritually convicted. We're intellectually aware. We're in all of the spaces, but we never cross into the stage of actual implementation. Actual implementation. And the transformation there, that happens in the practice, y'all. The practice, the practice, the practice. That need to be your word for this week. Practice, practice. So from this first video that I do in this little series here, I don't know what I'm gonna call this series, but I know already it's not gonna be a one video situation. I want you to be able to identify where you are in your healing and your growth journey. I want you to be able to understand why you struggle. And it ain't just you, this is human beings, with implementation, but there may be some very particular ways that you're struggling. And I want you to be able to access that and have awareness about that. And I want us to talk about the bridge between insight and action. What is the bridge? What does it look like? What does it look like for you? So that's what we're going to talk about in this series. And if you're here for it, if you really want to see yourself, if you really want to experience a deeper level of understanding about yourself and the nature of change and the nature of you, then you're in the right place. All right, you're in the right place. Let me just say this at this point. If you are here and you know that this is a place and space that you're supposed to be in, make sure that you take a look at the links in the caption below so that you can check out my Transcend program. You can also be connected to my Becoming Her retreat happening in July 2025 in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. Amazing spaces for you to do your work. Okay. All right. So let's get into these stages of growth. Okay. I want you to have a real good understanding of where you are, and this is going to help you in a lot of ways. And sometimes I have to just kind of come back to myself and be like, girl, where you at? I have to look at myself and where I say I want to go, where I say I want to be, how I want to feel. You know what I mean? How I want to move through the world, not just in terms of accomplishments and goals. I'm a businesswoman. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a mother. I have financial goals. I have lifestyle goals. I have spiritual goals, emotional well-being goals. I have goals in terms of my relationships with my children, with my husband, places I want to travel, all kind of things, right? I got all kind of things. And I know, and if you didn't know, today be the day you know, that I get to create that. I get to create the life that I want. I get to create all of the opportunities that I need. Everything is accessible to me. So when I'm feeling stuck or disconnected from where I'm trying to be emotionally, spiritually, concretely, physically in my life, I know it's a me thing. Somebody type me thing in the chat. It's a me thing. It ain't nobody else but me. It's me, it's me, it's me, oh Lord. Y'all know that's an old gospel song. All right, so I'm going to talk about these three stages of growth, and we'll pin it here after I get into this, and that will get you into a place of reflecting about where you are. And then we'll be able to go from there the next time we come together. All right. If you are here and you are ready, just type ready and subscribe. Stay with me as we are on this journey of self-understanding. So there are three distinct levels of healing and personal growth. Most people get stuck at level 1 or 2. 1 or 2, okay? And the goal, right? We're all trying to get to the third level and beyond. But first, I want to explain to you what it is. I want you to be able to see where you are. And level 1 is about awareness and revelation. Awareness and revelation. If you're a note taker, which you should be, awareness and revelation. This is the breakthrough phase. This is where folks first become aware, okay? Aware of your patterns, aware of your wounds, your hurt, areas where you need to improve, areas where you need growth, right? And oftentimes this can happen because you've gotten a word from God. You've had a spiritual experience perhaps where you were able to feel God's presence and God revealed that to you. Other times it's through things like therapy or coaching and having the help of a professional, somebody who's helping to walk you through a process. And so many of us don't take time to do that. But I'm going to tell you right now, as a therapist and a coach, it is such a wonderful way to get into awareness. Sometimes it happens from reading a powerful book. You're reading and you get these insights and like, oh my gosh, like I see myself, right? Like I am a fan of Iyanla Van Zandt. I'm a fan of Eckhart Tolle. I could go on, but there are some readings that always take me to another level of insight. And so that oftentimes can be the way that we get this awareness. Transformational teachers, listening to perhaps some ministers, going on a retreat, doing deep self-reflection, meditation, right? You get a revelation, right? You recognize a pattern, you recognize a block, and you're like, man, I didn't know that. Or I knew it, but I didn't really understand it. I didn't really get it. But now I get it. Like this is something that I've been blind to and I really haven't been paying attention to. And so you get that awareness, but oftentimes you feel overwhelmed in this stage. Overwhelmed by how much needs to change, by knowing what the issue is, but not really knowing what to do to be able to stop doing what you're doing or to do what you need to do, right? Getting stuck in learning. You might start to really get into a place where you're seeking out information and you're learning, you're getting new insights and awarenesses. You're like, wow, your mind is opened up in ways that it has never been open before. Watching videos, taking in the information, but not moving. If you've been here before, that's what I do. If you ain't never been here and seen me, you're like, what is she doing? When I feel something, I got to let out a little melody. Taking in the information, but not moving. Oh my goodness. Thinking that awareness is the growth. Awareness is the destination, but awareness, y'all, is the first step. It's the first step. It's not the last. So I need you to understand that you do not heal just because you see the wound. You do not heal just because you see the wound. But I don't want to minimize how important it is to be able to acknowledge the wound and how significant of a stage and a phase awareness is, the revelation, the being able to see yourself. I can remember years ago being in a session with a brother, and I had been working with him for a few months, and his getting into a place where he was comfortable to share with me some of his upbringing and what he experienced and some of the physical violence that he experienced in his house. He didn't say it that way, but he said, I got whoopings. He said, I got whoopings. I got, beat with a cord, with a this, with a that. And he explained stuff well beyond that. And eventually I just had to say to him, has it ever occurred to you that you were abused, that you experienced abuse? Oh, he looked at me like, what you mean? And he was a brother. And so culturally in our community, a lot of times what is culturally acceptable or there's a common understanding about, there is a part of us that holds on to that, and a part of us when we get exposed to something new that's curious and says, wait a minute, was that what happened? Oh yeah, that is. Because I was clear based on what he talked about. And based on the things that he experienced, this was not a cultural difference. I got spankings when I was little, okay? This was abuse. And so many times we don't even see. What is the point of me telling you that? We don't even see our situation. Oh, I've been in a session. Let me tell you another one. I've been in a session back in the day. This ain't really back in the day. I just be saying back. No, this was kind of sort of back in the day. I just want to make sure I'm not, nobody like, you talking about me. But this was some time ago. And this was actually myself and my husband working with a couple and needing to be able to help the brother, the gentleman, to understand how his experience of his father the rigidity he experienced in his father, the harshness he experienced from his father, the really kind of controlling, hard line approach, not only that he experienced and his siblings experienced, but also he saw his mother experience in terms of how his father dealt with his mother, how that was bleeding into his relationship, and how that was coming out in terms of how he was treating and holding space for and not holding space for his wife. Some of the expectations he had and some of the things that he thought were okay and reasonable, his wife was not here for. And he was not able to see how some of his way of being and his expectations were very much shaped by a father who he loved and adored, but also who he experienced being dismissed by, being hurt by, and not feeling heard. And yet he had become his father and was dismissing his wife, was hurting his wife, and not seeing her. And so there had to be an acknowledgement, there had to be awareness, there had to be a revelation. And sometimes it's just hard, it's just too hard. We don't want to do it because that means we got to feel the hurt. Got to feel the hurt. So I want to acknowledge that it's significant when you're in that place, and it is a wonderful place to be. But that is only stage one. That is only phase one, whatever you want to call it. There are 3 stages, and that's just the beginning. That is not enough. Somebody type that is not enough. Just type it in the chat. That's not enough. That's not enough. That's not enough. It's deep. It's amazing. It's big. Wow. Sometimes it feels like, wow, just the fact that I'm able to call it out for what it is such a huge shift for me, but it ain't enough. It ain't enough. So stage 2 is about the decision phase. This is the decision phase. All right. And this is about intention and resistance. Oh, I know something about this. I know something about this. I want to change. But it's hard. Lord have mercy. This is where people try to apply what they've learned, but you start to feel internal resistance. I hear it. I see it. I see the wound. I see the issues. And I understand it, but I don't know. Some part of us wants to stay in the broken space sometimes more than we want to be in the healed space. Some part of us wants to stay in the ignorance is bliss space more than we want to be in the I have clarity and I can move forward space, because, it can be a struggle. It can be a struggle. And so what happens here is you begin implementing perhaps some small changes, but you struggle with consistency. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Oh, I wish I could just be consistent. I'd be in and then I'd be out. Something happens in your life, something happens in your relationship, something happens where you feel the press and you're all in, but as soon as that cools off, you cool off. That's what happens in this phase. You might experience emotional pushback. That's that internal pushback where you feel uncomfortable. You feel a lot of fear, a lot of self-doubt. You might feel angry. It's a whole lot of angry people who are really just afraid. And it just shows up as anger. You have all these feelings and emotions. You didn't have to deal with this before. You didn't have to deal with this before in the awareness stage because you were just aware. But when you get into a place of decision, and you are setting an intention that I'm going to shift, I'm going to change, I'm going to move. Oh my goodness. Now you got to be open to all of the feelings. You got to be open to all of the contradictory things that pop up inside of you and in your atmosphere. The old patterns feel more natural. They feel more natural. They feel more like home. And the new way feels awkward. The new way feels forced. The new way is like, who does this? Who does all of this, right? You, if you just keep pushing forward. You know what I'm saying? So there is an intention that you set, but there is resistance. And in this phase, there is a lot of self-sabotage that goes on. I told you at the beginning that people are either in 1 or 2 and get stuck. Okay, so I want you to know, I want you to be able to tell me, where are you? I still got to go to the third phase, but I want to know where you are. So in this second phase or stage, I keep using those words interchangeably. You oftentimes self-sabotage. You are moving forward in your relationship. You're connecting. You're being a better communicator. You're regulating yourself more, but then you do something to fuck it up. Bow, 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 bow. Right? You're making room for other people's perspective. You are actually giving volume to your voice. You're not allowing yourself to shrink. You're not shutting down. You are making sure that you say to your mama, that's not okay. I love you, mama, but that's not okay. You're standing up for yourself at work. You're setting boundaries with your friends. You're doing the things you need to do. But then it just gets too awkward. It gets too much. It's like, oh, living this way is just so awkward, right? You self-sabotage. You self-sabotage. That's what happens. I know what I need to do, but I just can't seem to do it consistently. Right? There's resistance to feedback in this stage. Oh, you're still struggling to receive correction or to just let go of trying to be in control. When we are staying in a place of control where we cannot receive feedback, where we are fake receiving feedback, you receive it and you hear it, and then you go on and you do the same shit, or you shut down, or you continue the way that you've always continued on. That's what I call fake receiving feedback, right? Be it from your partner, be it from your mama, be it from your pastor or your therapist, okay? You are in a place where you are struggling in this phase to be able to fully receive what God is trying to do. So there's resistance to feedback, and there's a lot of external pressure that's happening in this space. A lot of external pressure, right? Your relationship habits, right? The way that people are showing up, your environment, it is pulling you back into your old ways. Some of us need to let some things go, let some stuff go, let some people go, and let some places go. You don't need to go there. You don't need to talk to them. You don't need to share this with them. And you don't need to be in this environment. Some of you need to change not just the environment that you go into, but you need to change the environment of your home. Your home is not facilitating the kind of energy that you need because your energy is funky and stank. And so you have to work on yourself so that you can work on the environment. All of this is happening at that intention and resistance phase. This is the phase of decision, because you have to decide, am I going to move forward or am I going to stay stuck? Am I going to wait to feel good? Am I going to wait for it to all come together and then I'll move? Or am I just going to move even in the muck and the mire and all of the funky feelings that I have? Yeah, this is the stage where most people quit. Take that in. Take it in. This is the stage where most people quit. They think resistance means that they're failing. But resistance is proof that you're growing. If you were not growing, you would have nothing to resist. There'd be nothing to resist if you weren't growing. You'd just be in your comfortable, ignorant ass bliss. You understand? So when you're having all of this turmoil, it is evidence that something is going on, that friction is happening, right? So resistance is not a bad thing. It is a part of the process. And so for some of you all, you just needed to hear that tonight or today, whenever you're watching this, right? You just needed to hear that. It's evidence that you're growing. The third stage is the becoming stage, or the becoming phase. Oh, I love it. The becoming. This is about embodiment and integration. How do you embody what you are learning? How do you possess it? How do you become it? Oh my goodness, it's by going through the first two stages that I just shared with you. This is just who I am now. Oh, doesn't that sound good? That's what this phase is about. This is just who I am. This is when healing and transformation become a way of life. Not just something that you work on in moments of inspiration or in moments of desperation. You show up differently in your relationships. You show up differently for yourself. You have inner accountability. You say, you know what? I'm not living in integrity. I say this, but I'm doing something different. I need to figure out how to bring these two parts of myself together so there's not a disconnect, and nobody's in the room. Nobody's in the room. You're not talking to nobody. You ain't sharing that with nobody. You ain't proving nothing to nobody. There's a deep inner accountability that's going on because your highest self, your God self, is calling you up. And so there is an awakening happening. And you are leaning into it. You naturally respond in ways that align with your healed self without having to think about it. Oh, this is the stage of becoming. You're no longer trying. Oh my goodness, this is making me feel I'm just getting excited talking about it, y'all. You're no longer trying to be disciplined. You're no longer trying to be emotionally available. You're no longer trying to be spiritually grounded. You just are. Da, 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 da. You just are. You just are. And do you live in this place 100% of the time? No. You don't live in it 100% of the time. But you are there more than you are not. You are there more than you are not. It's a beautiful, beautiful place to be. My goodness. And there are some struggles in this phase because this is life. Nobody is exempt. Somebody put that in the chat. Nobody's exempt from a struggle. Nobody's exempt from a lesson. Nobody's exempt from a learning. We all get the opportunity to lean into those things differently and to show up to our lives and to the lessons and to the teachings and to the callings that God has for us in our own individual ways better and more effectively, but nobody's exempt. You don't arrive at a place and you're like, oh, I'm done. Whew, I got to it. No, baby, it don't work that way. But what happens at this stage, these are just a few common struggles. There's a fear of what happens now because when you're in this stage, you have released control. Thank you, God. Oh, thank you, God. God is, woo, Lord have mercy. You have released control. So when you release control, you are open. You're in a place of surrender. And so when you are in a place of surrender, my goodness, God can do what God will do, but you don't always know what's going on. Matter of fact, most of the time you don't know what's going on. You're just open, you're listening, and you're moving. And you're trusting. And so oftentimes in this stage, there is a new identity and it's unfamiliar and you don't really know all of like what's going on, what's happening and what does this mean? And you have to continue to be in a place of surrender. And so that can be very uncomfortable because you don't get to have any control. Letting go of relationships, right? Sometimes we have some relationships and some people and some situations, like I just said a little while ago, that are still hanging around, some habits that are still hanging around. And it just does not align with this new version of yourself. And this new version of yourself is not a fake self. This is your real self. And sometimes it's really, really difficult to be able to let those things go fully. You have created distance, but you still have it hanging around in your atmosphere. And you have to be willing to let it go. Let it go. Somebody type let it go in the chat. Type it, let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. And there is a lot of temptation in this stage to revert back to your old self, your old patterns, your old habits when life gets really stressful because we're human beings. We are spiritual beings first, but we're also human beings. And so, it can be real easy to be like, man, I'm done with this. I'm done with her. I'm done with him. I'm done with them, right? When you really need to be going to a higher level. So you will know that you've reached embodiment when the things you used to struggle to practice are now your default responses. It doesn't mean that you don't have any places of difficulty or conflict internally or externally, but the things that you struggle to practice before are now the default. You're in the embodiment. You're embodying who you are really and truthfully. You're embodying your essence. You're embodying who God says you are and what God is calling on you to do, to be, to say. You're embodying it. And it's a default. It is your nature. You're getting back to your truest self. So those are the 3 stages, y'all. That's the 3 stages of growth and healing. And I want you to know that it's important for you to know where you are. Are you at awareness and revelation? Okay. The breakthrough phase, right? Where are you? Are you at a place of intention and resistance? You got the awareness, right? But now you're in the decision phase, right? And you're in that place. Or are you in a place of embodiment and integration? Most people are in 1 and 2. Most people are in 1 and 2. And you could be at 3. I'm not saying you're not. But sometimes we give ourselves more credit than we need to. Wow, 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 wow. But I want you to assess that for yourself and really be honest about it. Take some time to journal, take a walk, do some reflection, do some meditation, do some declarative prayer. If you don't know what declarative prayer is, I will be doing a video on that soon. But do some set aside some personal time to be able to reflect on the stage that you're in. And don't judge you. Don't judge you. Don't judge your situation. Don't judge it. Just get clarity about it. And when we come back together, I will follow up with a part 2. We're going to talk about why so many people struggle to move from insight to implementation. And we're also going to talk about 3 ways that you can access your next level of growth. Like there are 3 intentional ways, 3 things you can be doing, 3 ways you can be living, 3 practical things that if you're not doing these things, then you're making it harder for yourself. And perhaps you're even nurturing your stuckness in some way or another. So if this was helpful to you, please do let me know. Drop a comment. I'm going to be paying attention to the comments, and stay connected to Transcend with Deanna and the Art of Overcoming and all that I'm doing here in this space, because I'm answering my call so that you can answer yours. Peace and blessings.